Hello to all the curious minds out there, and welcome back to our little corner of reflection. Today we are embarking on a journey to the east, stepping back in time more than 2,500 years. We are going to explore a philosophy that does not seek to conquer the world, but rather to flow with it. We are talking about Taoism and its central figure, the mysterious Laozi. His work, the Tao Te Ching, is one of the most translated and revered texts in human history. But what exactly is the Tao? And why does its message of non-doing resonate so deeply in our era of constant hustle? Before we begin, a brief note. To bring this narration to life, I have used artificial intelligence tools to generate the images you see. Think of them as a canvas, a way to illustrate the ideas and the atmosphere of the story we are telling. I truly hope you enjoy it. To understand the Tao, we must first look at the context. Imagine China in the 6th century before Christ. It was not a time of peace and meditation under cherry blossoms. It was the period known as the Spring and Autumn period, a prelude to the Warring States. The social fabric was unraveling. Feudal lords fought for power, corruption was rampant, and human life was worth very little. In the midst of this chaos, thinkers emerged seeking a solution, a way to restore lost order and harmony. While Confucius proposed strict rules, rituals, and social hierarchies to fix the world, a legendary figure named Laozi proposed something radically different. He did not suggest building more structures, but rather returning to the simplicity of nature. But who was Laozi? His name literally means old master. Some historians debate whether he existed as a single person or if he is a compendium of oral wisdom. Legend has it that he was an archivist in the imperial court of the Zhou dynasty. Tired of the moral decay of the court, Laozi decided to go into exile. He climbed onto a water buffalo and headed west, toward the mountains and solitude. However, upon reaching the border pass, a guard named Yingxi recognized him and asked him for a favor. The guard said, "Master, since you are going to retire from the world, I beg you to write a book to instruct me." Laozi agreed and wrote 5,000 characters. That text is what we know today as the Tao Te Ching, the Book of the Way and Virtue. This small book contains 81 short chapters, sometimes in verse, sometimes in prose. It is a dense, poetic, and deeply enigmatic text. It does not read like an instruction manual, but rather like a collection of paradoxes designed to break our logic. Let's dive in. The central concept is, of course, the Tao. But here is where the problem begins. The first line of the book says, "The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name." Laozi warns us from the start that human language is limited. Words are labels we put on things, but they are not the things themselves. The Tao is the ultimate reality, the nameless origin of heaven and earth, something that escapes definition. If we had to describe it, we could say that the Tao is the natural order of the universe. It is the force that makes the seasons change, the planets spin, and the plants grow. It is not a personal God who judges, but a generating principle. To help us understand, Laozi uses metaphors, and the most famous is that of water. Water is soft and yielding, but over time it can wear away the hardest stone. Water seeks the low places that others despise, and yet it nourishes all beings. This preference for the low, the dark, and the soft is revolutionary. In a world that values strength, height, and brilliance, Taoism invites us to look at the power of what seems weak. It is the paradox that true strength resides in flexibility. Think about it for a moment. A stiff, dry tree breaks easily in a storm. A bamboo or a willow, which bends with the wind, survives. Laozi tells us that rigidity is the companion of death, while flexibility is the companion of life. Another fundamental concept for understanding Taoist ontology is the relationship between being and non-being. We tend to think that only what exists physically has value. But Laozi invites us to contemplate the utility of the void, of the space that is not occupied. He says, we mold clay to make a pot, but it is the emptiness inside that makes it useful. We build doors and windows for a house, but it is the empty space that allows us to live in it. Being gives the form, but non-being gives the utility. This has profound implications for our lives. We often fill our schedules, our minds, and our homes with things, thinking that more is better. Taoism suggests that we need empty space, silence, and pauses so that life can truly flow. Now let's move to the most famous, ethical, and practical concept of Taoism, Wu Wei. Literally translated, it means non-action or effortless action. But be careful, this is what is most misunderstood in the West. It does not mean laziness or passivity. Wu Wei is not staying on the couch waiting for life to pass you by. It is the art of acting in harmony with the flow of things. It is acting without forcing, without fighting against the current. It is the difference between swimming against a river and using the current to move forward. Imagine a master craftsman, a carpenter, or a musician. When they are at their best, they aren't thinking step by step about what they're doing. They simply flow. Action happens through them. That is Wu Wei, a cultivated and perfect spontaneity. Laozi uses the example of nature constantly. Plants do not struggle to grow. They simply grow. The sun does not struggle to shine. Everything in nature fulfills its function without anxiety, without hurry, and without pretension. Only humans struggle. The human problem, according to Laozi, is the excess of desire and intellect that interferes with our spontaneous nature. We try to control the future, manipulate others, and force results. This creates resistance and, ultimately, suffering. Wu Wei is also a political strategy. Laozi advises leaders to govern with as little interference as possible. He says, govern a great state as you would cook a small fish. That is, don't overhandle it, or it will fall apart. The best leader, according to the Tao Te Ching, is the one whose existence people barely notice. When their work is done and their goal fulfilled, the people say, we did it ourselves. It is leadership that empowers without imposing, that guides without dragging. This contrasts sharply with the modern vision of the charismatic leader seeking the spotlight. For Laozi, the ego is the great obstacle. The sage puts himself last, and, paradoxically, that is why he ends up at the front. By not competing, no one can compete with him. Let's talk now about the three treasures that Laozi says he keeps and protects. The first is compassion or unconditional love. The second is frugality or moderation. And the third is not daring to be ahead of others, humility. Compassion generates courage. Frugality generates abundance, for those who know they have enough are rich. And humility allows for learning and growth. These values are the antidote to aggression, greed, and arrogance. A fascinating concept is that of the Pu, or the uncarved block. It represents the original state of the mind and human nature, before being sculpted by society, prejudices, and artificial desires. It is pure potentiality. Society carves us constantly. It tells us what we should want, how we should behave, what success is. Laozi invites us to return to the state of Pu, to that authentic simplicity where we don't need to impress anyone, and we are complete. Now, how do we apply this in the 21st century? We live in a burnout society, a society of self-exploitation. Laozi's message is more radical today than ever. He tells us that stopping is not wasting time, but rather finding our center again. He teaches us that softness overcomes hardness. In an argument, often yielding a little, listening and not reacting with anger disarms the opponent more effectively than a shout. It is the tactic of water going around the rock, not crashing against it. He also speaks to us about knowledge. Laozi says, knowing others is intelligence. Knowing yourself is enlightenment. Mastering others is strength. Mastering yourself is true power. The real battlefield is internal. This introspection is not selfish. By bringing peace to ourselves, we bring peace to our surroundings. External chaos is often a reflection of our internal chaos. If we want peace in the world, we must start with silence in our own minds. Laozi also criticizes the excess of intellectual knowledge that distances us from experiential wisdom. Accumulating data is not the same as understanding how life works. Sometimes knowing fewer things allows us to understand the important ones better. It is the distinction between knowledge that divides and classifies, and wisdom that unites and understands the whole. Taoism seeks synthesis, a holistic vision where opposites like good and evil, beauty and ugliness, define each other. Because think about it. Could the idea of beauty exist without that of ugliness? Could height exist without depth? Laozi teaches us that opposites are not enemies, but necessary partners in the dance of existence. Accepting them is finding peace. Let's talk about death. For Taoism, death is not a tragic end, but a return. It is going back to the origin, merging once again with the Tao. Accepting death as a natural part of the cycle eliminates the fear that prevents us from living fully. This radical acceptance of what is exactly as it is the key to Taoist serenity. It does not mean we don't feel pain or sadness, but rather that we don't add extra suffering by resisting the reality of the present moment. The Taoist sage is flexible in his opinions. He does not cling to being right. He knows that truth is multifaceted and changing. In a polarized world where everyone shouts their absolute truth, this mental flexibility is a superpower. Laozi invites us to be like the valley. The valley is low and hollow, and that is why all streams flow into it. By remaining receptive and humble, the wisdom and energy of others flow toward us without effort. Another powerful idea: when the work is done, withdraw. Clinging to success, fame, or recognition is planting the seed of one's own fall. Knowing when to stop is just as important as knowing how to start. Taoism greatly influenced Chan Buddhism, which would later become Zen in Japan. That aesthetic of emptiness, simplicity, and nature that we see in Asian art has its deep roots in these ideas of Laozi. Returning to Wu Wei, how does it feel in daily life? It's that moment when you stop worrying about the result and immerse yourself in the process. It's when you write, run, or cook and time disappears. You are being lived by the Tao. It's not magic, it's the psychology of flow. Laozi was perhaps the first psychologist to describe this optimal state of human functioning, eliminating the internal friction of doubt and fear to release natural capacity. But be careful not to confuse Taoism with passivity in the face of injustice. Water can be calm, but it can also tear down walls. Non-action can be a very powerful form of resistance, as Gandhi demonstrated centuries later with non-violence. The difference is that Taoist action is not born from hate, but from the need to restore balance. It is not about destroying the enemy, but about correcting the situation. It is a subtle but vital distinction so as not to become what one fights against. As we move through the text, we see that Laozi distrusts excessive laws. He says, the more prohibitions there are, the poorer the people. The more laws and decrees, the more thieves and bandits appear. It is a critique of social engineering. He believes that true morality is born spontaneously from the human heart when it is not oppressed, not from external imposition. Forced kindness is not kindness, it is obedience. Imagine a society where mutual trust replaces endless legal contracts. It sounds like a utopia, but Laozi reminds us that in small ancient communities, this was the norm. We have gained complexity, but we have lost trust. The Taoist sage walks through the world with caution, like someone crossing a frozen river in winter. He is not impulsive. He observes, feels the ground, and moves only when the time is right. This mindfulness is a form of respect for reality. Laozi also speaks to us about the relativity of values. What is trash to one is treasure to another. What is the end of the world for the caterpillar is a butterfly for the master. He invites us to change our perspective before judging a situation as bad. The concept of te in the title Tao Te Ching is often translated as virtue, but not in a moralistic sense. It is more like intrinsic virtue, the inner power of each thing to be what it is. The te of a tree is to grow. The te of water is to flow. Cultivating our te means aligning our personal life with the great universal Tao. When we do this, we gain a charisma and an effectiveness that require no effort. We become magnetic because we are standing in our truth. But achieving this simplicity is difficult. Laozi says, "My words are easy to understand and easy to practice, but no one under heaven understands or practices them." Why? Because our ego loves complexity. We feel important when we are busy, worried, and solving complex problems. Simplicity terrifies us because it leaves us alone with ourselves. Taoism is a mirror that forces us to look into that void. Laozi suggests reducing our desires. He doesn't say eliminate them, for we are human, but reduce them. He who knows he has enough will always have enough. Greed is a bottomless pit that never fills, no matter how much you throw into it. In the modern world, marketing is based on making us feel that we are lacking something. Taoism is the perfect anti-system antidote. It tells us that we are already complete, that we don't need the latest model of anything to be happy. Toward the end of his teaching, Laozi reminds us of the importance of starting small. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. We are often paralyzed by the magnitude of our dreams. The Tao tells us, just take the step that is right in front of you. Don't worry about the top of the mountain. Worry about where you put your foot right now. This attention to the present is what eliminates anxiety about the future. The future builds itself, step by step, moment by moment. It is curious how a philosophy from 25 centuries ago can sound so fresh. Perhaps because human nature has not changed that much. We are still afraid, we still want to control, and we still suffer because of it. Taoism doesn't ask you to go live in a cave. You can practice the Tao in the office, in traffic, in your family. It's about an internal attitude of non-resistance, of fluidity, and of intelligent acceptance. Imagine facing a problem at work not with tension, but with curiosity, like water seeking the crack to get through. That is applying the Tao. It's changing I have to for I'm gonna flow with this. In the end, Laozi disappeared through the Western Pass and was never heard from again. He did not found a church, he did not ask for worshipers, he left us a map and departed, faithful to his own teaching of doing the work and then withdrawing. His legacy is an invitation to let go. To let go of the need for control, the need to be right, the need to be admired. And in that letting go, paradoxically, we find immense freedom. In a world that shouts at us that we must be someone, Laozi whispers that it is okay to be no one. That in anonymity and simplicity, there is a peace that power and fame can never buy. The Tao is the path that is made by walking. There is no fixed formula because life is constant change. The only constant is change, and the Tao is the skill of dancing with that change without stepping on your own toes. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, remember the water. Remember the valley. Remember that sometimes the most powerful action is to stop, breathe, and let the mud settle until the water clears. Laozi left us this treasure not for us to worship, but for us to use. The Tao Te Ching is a tool for navigating the storm of life with elegance and serenity. A beacon of ancient light for modern times. We have traveled together through the concepts of Tao, Wu Wei, simplicity, and the paradox of soft strength. But remember, understanding it intellectually is only the first step. The true Tao is lived in the body and in daily action. What part of Laozi's philosophy resonates most with you? Is it the idea of flowing like water? Or perhaps the critique of excessive ambition? The wisdom of this old master has 1,000 faces for 1,000 observers. We live in uncertain times, and it is in uncertainty where Taoism shines brightest. When we don't know what is going to happen, that is when we most need the flexibility of bamboo and the clarity of a mirror. Thank you for joining me on this journey to the heart of ancient China and to the depths of ourselves. I hope these ideas serve as a balm on frantic days and as a compass in moments of doubt. If this analysis has made you reflect, don't forget to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. I would love to know how you apply Wu Wei in your life. Until next time, seekers of the way. Remember, the path that can be named is not the eternal path. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and above all, keep flowing. And so, we close the book for today, but the reflection continues. May the silence between these words be as meaningful to you as the words themselves. See you in the next video.